John, let's take it here. The Warriors had already become kind of a badass team again before Clay came back. The little wrinkle that I certainly didn't see coming is that right about the time Clay was going to come back, that, and we were talking about the West in terms of Golden State, Phoenix, and Utah. Here come the Grizzlies to say, no, hold on a second, that there might be a top 4 in the West and another team that might deserve that kind of distinction as being elite. Read your column, enjoyed it. Like you kind of hinted at, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a major part of that, and you were part of the group that drafted him in 2018. But a lot of great guys putting in good work over there. What are you seeing as far as this rise they're part of right now?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, obviously, getting Morant at number 2 in 2019 is the key to the whole thing. But then trading up, or actually, I think they traded in to get Bane at 30 just to take Enes Kanter's $5 million, and I think they gave up 2 seconds in that. I mean, they hit that pick out of the park. I mean, Bane's become such a deadly shooter, and pairing him with Morant now, where Morant is so good at dribbling and creating, and now you have this deep shooter next to him. It's just been a lethal combination. And now you look at the Grizzlies. They have a clean cap sheet. They have trade assets. They have expiring contracts. Like, is the window open now? Is it open at the beginning of next year? Like, if the window isn't open right now, it's definitely open soon, right? And so you start thinking more in terms of, up until now, it's been win later decisions, right? Like from the moment we traded Mark in February 2018, I think it was. The years run together. It might be 2019. But from that moment, it's been all about the future. I think now all of a sudden it's like, hey, now we got to go back to being about the present, and they have expiring contracts. They have different things they can do. They're deep as hell, but again, in a playoff situation, it really comes down to your top 5 or 6 guys. And so can they make meaningful upgrades with what they have right now? Is there somebody out there who represents that upgrade, or are they better off just waiting till the off season?
What's Bane on a title contender? Like, well, like 3 years from now, can he be a third best player for, like, where are you at on Bane?
Yeah, probably like the number 3 or 4 guy, right? Like realistically, if you're contending for a title, you probably have 2 of the best 20 players in the league, at least. The Grizzlies you would say looking forward, they would have one of them. Certainly. Do they have that second guy right now? Can Jaren Jackson become that? Maybe. Do they need to trade for that? Try to get that guy that way? Maybe. I think that's where you question a little more. And then I think everything after that kind of snaps into place if you get that second really high level guy, because then, Bane can play off of that. Brooks, obviously, when he comes back, the bench again is really strong. You have these guys, Melton, Jones, Konkar, Steven Adams. A couple of those might have to be contracts that go into a trade, obviously, but they're so crazy deep.
The Brooks injury obviously is not great, MCL, but like you kind of chronicled, they've been winning games when Ja's out, winning games when Dylan's out, and that depth is coming in. I wonder, John, I mean, again, you spent 7 years there. You still have, connective tissue to this group. But you think about the Grizzlies nationally, and we all know, like, listen, they don't get a ton of media attention. I guarantee you that they were ecstatic that you wrote a column about them today, because they're just not getting the kind of love. If the Lakers were doing something like this, it would be all day, every day, all over the country. But if you ask Joe Blow, casual fan, about, who represents the Memphis Grizzlies, once you get past Ja, and even if you get outside the player realm, I think about the fact that, like, if Zach Kleiman's not a guy who people know, you know what I mean? Their executive VP and the GM of their team. Taylor Jenkins is a guy that could walk into your local Safeway and not get harassed by anybody. Maybe not in the heart of Memphis, but in most places. Like, as you assign credit here, and I know it's a collective type thing, and the way they've built this thing, who kind of pops into your mind first, and how do you see just the way they put it together?
You mean in terms of the building of the team?
Beyond drafting Ja, how do you see the way they have built this thing, and who do you give a hat tip to regarding?
It's hard because I'm so connected to this. Obviously, I mean, getting the picks on Bane and Brooks, turning those two into pretty good starters. I mean, I think that is a huge part of it. And then the Conley and Gasol trades, beyond draft, the getting in the lottery for Ja and Jaren obviously was the two most important things, and that required good fortune and some losing, right? But beyond that, the Conley trade I think was huge because they just got so much asset wise out of that, and the in terms of the trade exceptions, and then taking the trade exceptions from JaMychal Green and making it a bigger exception, and that's what enabled them to do the Melton trade. That's what enabled them to get. That's sort of what opened the door for them to get into that Bane trade even. And so it just created so many opportunities for them, and still going forward, they're still sitting on that Golden State pick from the Iguodala deal. So they're still reaping kind of the benefit of that. And then Gasol, obviously they got Valanciunas out of that, who is now Steven Adams, plus allowed them to trade up in 2 different drafts as a result of that trade. So I think just a lot of things happened within a pretty short period there. I was there for some of it, but by no means all of it. And it's just almost this cascading thing now where one good decision is sort of created the conditions for another good or even better decision, which is created, what we have now. It's all kind of built on each other. Nailing the Jenkins hire, I think, was huge too, though. I mean, I think this is the year where he's really shown that he's the right guy there, because their start was not great, if you remember. I mean, they were 9-10. They were hemorrhaging points on defense, and he pulled them out of that ditch. And so I think this is the year where he's really earned his stripes as a head coach. And he's had some harder decisions to make with more guys who had established themselves and showed maybe they deserve minutes, and really pushing Bane into a much bigger role, and what he did with him in summer league, putting him on the ball to get him that responsibility. So I think this is the year that's really shown that I think the Jenkins hire was the right one. And it's funny, it could end up 1-2 in the coach of the year this year. It could. Taylor Jenkins and JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, they really could.
It could.
I mean, the Cavs have fallen off a little bit, but yeah.
The Cleveland second half schedule is light, though.
Okay.
They're in Sacramento tonight, Sam. So,
and I'm a game time decision. I haven't decided yet.
No.
I've told you before, though. I think that free Tesla juice might get me up there. That might be the X factor.
There you go. Yeah, plug it in. Why were they so bad defensively? I mean, obviously I know Brooks missed the first part of the season. I know when Morant went out, they kind of turned it around defensively. But they've survived now that he's been back on that end. Like, because all I know, I saw them in the play-in, like, the way Dylan Brooks guarded Steph, but the way they bothered the Warriors. And then even in an early season game, while they were the 30th ranked defense, they defended the Warriors well and chased and beat them. I'm about to see that matchup tomorrow night. Why were they bad early, and why have they turned it around on that end?
So it was really hard for me to figure out why they were so bad, actually, because I think there was some 3-point variance going on, but that wasn't all of it. There was just this like weird kind of malaise. Like they were just, I don't know if they were just too focused on the offense or what, but it was just bad all over. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. has definitely really stepped up on that end, though, in the last, say, 5-6 weeks. And I don't know if that's just a consequence of him really being comfortable with the knee and everything or what, but he has been way more impactful than he was early in the season, certainly. And I think Ja has probably improved his attention to detail on that end too, because I mean, early in the season, he really probably wasn't very good on that end, if we're being honest.
Guys, my last thought on the Memphis front, because I do want to pivot, and I know John's a little pressed for time, and we got to talk trade deadline season because it's starting to heat up here for sure. But, you mentioned, John, that Ja is obviously the linchpin of this whole thing. That 2019 draft quickly has become fascinating because obviously you got Zion with all of his health issues, and Ja standing out kind of above the rest. RJ Barrett, DeAndre Hunter from there, Darius Garland. The gap between Ja and the rest of the field. And I know it's early and we got to judge these things over the course of 5, 6, 7 years. But my God, what he's doing right now as a guy coming out of Murray State and just looking like a future MVP candidate is just remarkable.
It's funny. So I went to scout him because I was still working for the Grizzlies his draft year early in that season. And I was actually the only scout at the game. They were playing Missouri State, but a guy came down in transition and tried to shoot a floater over him. And Ja went up. It wasn't as explosive as this play last night. Like, don't get crazy here. But he went up and he blocked the shot with 2 hands and caught it right in front of me. And I was like, holy crap, like, did that just happen?